Yes, there we go. Regarding 365, this is Daryl as a service, and
this is Daniel Glenn coming to you from the from Nashville, Tennessee, which is often called the Vatican of the Protestants. I don't know. I'm just making it up. We actually
you're gonna have to come up with a.
Well, we
have to come
actually
up with a
have
list of all the different ways you refer to you.
Yeah, we actually have more churches, Protestant churches in this area than it's something like a huge percentage of the country. There's like one strip of street that is the highest concentration of churches, I think, in the South or something like that. I don't know. It's quite big. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, we can mark that as another nickname for Nashville. Yeah.
Yeah, why not? So this is our second take today, Dan, because what happened earlier, we had some various layers of issues. So if we could go through layers 1, 2, and 3 on network switches, we hit them all. And
That's right.
It sort of really down to that basic layer of, do we really need to hear Dan or not on the cast? So no, we don't. Let's double up and we'll hear Daryl twice. Echoed.
Yes, and it's do we need to hear Daniel? Nah, we don't need to hear Daniel. He can just be a quiet model. And then we're like, well, maybe we don't need to hear Daryl twice. So
yeah, that's where it got a bit ugly. We had some feedback from people watching live, and of course there was a few others like Tom Reesing that watched in turns. Like, it's just impossible to hear. I watched it before jumping on the train. It's like, no, I know we're not polished, but that's way below our standards.
Yes. Way below our standards. So here we go, man.
Yeah. So we're going to get Dan to share his screen, and we'll work our way through the announcements.
Yep. So let me know when you see.
And you'll be able to hear this now. This is brilliant.
Right.
There it is. Good. We see it.
Okay. All right, so first off is the new feature for attention views. This is for SharePoint libraries, and this is something that, and you'll see here, that it was announced at the Microsoft Ignite conference, and it is really giving a little bit more attention views is a great way of calling it out, but of attention to items in SharePoint that have missing metadata. So I'm showing this the more information. We've talked about the additional information link on these before, but this leads to a blog post on the tech community. And so basically what we're going to have is a new view in our library here that's called files that need attention, and basically it's items that have missing information. And so we're going to be able to select them. A pane is going to open up, and we're going to be able to fill in. This pane we have availability now, but being able to quickly edit those that metadata. And we can also do it for multiple documents at once. So we'll be able to select all of those. For instance, if they're, all of these documents pertain to a client or a customer, or they all need a year associated with their, maybe it's a contract or something like that. You could select all the documents and then put in the date and be done. So it's a nice feature for document and content management that really enables you to get on with what you need to be doing instead of filling in information. The information's important, but it's nice to get moving on and do it real quickly and just go. So.
No, Dan, this is going to be useful for making sure that enterprise content management and all those great structures that do depend on metadata are going to use it. Do you envisage regular users using this view? Is it just an admin or power user kind of view?
Well, yeah, this is kind of the content owner of this content saying, I'm managing this content. So this isn't someone who normally is reading. This is someone who's managing it that would be updating the content. So, yeah. And like I said, I think it's great to be able to highlight the missing metadata. This happens often when you upload documents, for instance, and then you create a new column that's required. well, none of those documents that were there existing is going to have that data, right? So be able to quickly fill in that information for those documents is a big help in those areas.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing that I think it's mentioned in this article or else that we read, that the ability to add metadata from within the Office application is returning. It was removed when we had the what was that application again? InfoPath.
InfoPath, yeah. So with Word and Excel, we used to be able to fill in metadata within the application because with the document information panel. With Office 2016, that was removed. You could still get to the properties, but it was in the backstage. They call that backstage where you go to file and all that. But this is going to bring this front and center. I myself have deployed a enterprise application that relied on the document information panel because that was the business requirement. I don't want my users to have to go work in the document and then save it and then have to go into SharePoint and edit the properties, right? I want to add that metadata right while I'm working on the document. So Word is coming with this functionality and will be released, first release for 2016 Word on Windows. Yeah, it's currently running. I think it's currently rolling out. Yep, right there it is. Currently rolling out for first release. So it's really good.
Cool. I'm looking out for that too, because as you say, you've got to enter it at the time. Otherwise, it's just an afterthought.
Well,
all right. Next announcement. It gets on mine.
Yeah, I just want to say it gets us to this point. If you don't allow your users to enter the metadata there, then you're going to come into a problem where there's going to be a lot of missing metadata. So, All right. So the next one is all yours. Groups on mobile.
Yeah, great. Yeah, groups on mobile. Well, we do have an app for groups on mobile. Now, keeping up with change as one of our mottos. Here's another change that you need to get to grips with. It is not called Office 365 Groups. It is not called Outlook Groups. It is called Groups for Outlook. I was corrected.
Right.
So, hey, product group, I'm doing my part to get that name out there. Groups for Outlook, and not groups for business for Outlook, because Outlook is all about business, or is it?
Right.
Anyway. Groups for Outlook had its own app, or still has its own app on Android, on iOS, and there are various reasons why you would use that, because it does give you a few buttons to push to get into files and managing your appointments, or rather meetings for the group as well. But there has been increasing requests to try and build more of this functionality into Outlook as the app. So this is yet another step towards that. You can get your groups within the Outlook app, and soon you'll be able to manage those groups from the app as well. Now, this gives you the power to create a group from the Outlook app. Passing comment on that, Dan, what would be the implications about creating and deleting groups from the Outlook app?
Well, my first thought was this is mobile, right? And so it's have you ever made a mistake on your phone, like when you're on the go? No.
Autocorrect gets it right every time.
Right. Sure it does. That's my only thing is that, this has impact for other things. And so you really need to make sure you get it right. And so this would be something, if you're doing on your mobile, my first thought was just take your time on this. Don't send out, don't do this like you would a tweet or worse yet, a text, to your best friend where you don't really care about spelling. This is a little more important than that. So.
Yeah, especially because it's actually creating an Azure Active Directory object. So I'm creating a new group now because I need to collaborate with people and coordinate with people and communicate. Oh crap! I added another letter. Oh well, try again. Another group. So you get these multiple.
Oh, I capitalized some letter in the middle of the word. Oh, rats! Or oops, I added 2 O's instead of 1. Yes. So just be careful when you do this.
Fat fingers. And along the same lines, deleting the group. I probably wouldn't want to turn that kind of functionality on for a mobile user, but certainly being able to manage members of groups. Now, I had a real use case for this week where I had added Laurie Strand into a demo group that I had been using to create my CoLab 365 global conference presentation. Forgot that he was still in there, and he said, "Hey, I'm getting all these emails about various different conversations. Can you remove me?" I'm like, I could, but yeah. So if I could do that from my mobile, that would be quite useful.
Just make sure you don't remove the wrong people, right?
Correct.
So,
again, yep.
Right. Be careful. I'm all about being careful tonight, apparently. So I did open up the additional information, and it really is about learning about what is Office 365 Groups. So I think this is actually a good read, even if you're not worrying about mobile. You just want to read more about what's going on. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, well, that still feels like a placeholder, doesn't it? It's not really additional information about the mobile capabilities. It's coming back to, well, we've got to put something here. Let's put something about groups.
Exactly. I totally agree with that, but it actually is a good read. And I think the supporting information for each one of these is highlighted here. Although it's not a link, I don't like that. I actually have to copy this and then paste it. There's some feedback for
Brian,
for the team. Yes, so maybe we should have Brian on.
Maybe
we should have Brian on speed dial every time we do one of these, and then when we find something like this, we just dial him in and say, "Brian, bad.
I like that.
Fix it."
I like that. Yeah, loop him back in. Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
You know what? I just noticed our YouTube feed's not recording. So anyway, we're having fun with that today as well. Sorry, That's YouTube people. We'll just hang with the Periscopers.
That's right. All right, so the next one is the changes to the token lifetime default in Azure AD. This is something we've talked about before. It was in your tenant, and it wasn't in mine, but now it is in mine. So basically changing the lifetime default inactivity period to 90 days, and they're rolling that out for me in about 11 days, so October 20th. So... yeah.
So my understanding of that, maybe I've got it wrong, but there are a number of different services within Office 365 that leverage the Azure AD lifetime token or being logged in. Sharing that session across all those services and making sure that you're still logged in for 90 days. My experience at the app level, and this is one trouble that I have, is sometimes I'll get prompted to say, "Hey, you can't synchronize this notebook until you log back in again." Maybe it's a different token or a different authentication, but this supposedly is going to help smooth that process over, where you don't have to continually log into things. That it's going to keep that open for 90 days of activity.
Yeah, I think so. And this is the write-up, and the first thing I noticed when I saw this was this date, which is August 31st, 2017, which so this is just showing up in my tenant, I think. And it may be that maybe it showed up before and now it's just kind of a reminder. That's another thing we maybe ask Brian. But so this is all about the changes and what's going on. So this is a good read. If it's not a short read, but it's a good read to kind of give you some information. If that's, I think for normal admins, 365 admins, this is something that you just need to be aware of. I don't think you need to dive into this too much, but if you are on the security side and you are, heavy into that, then you need to know about this. That's just my, my take on this.
As you were scrolling through that, there was a piece of a script there that says how to revert that setting if you need to. So if you've got a company policy where no, we don't want inactivity for 90 days, we want it for just a week or even 24 hours, then that's over to you to tweak that back to what you want it to be to fit your policies.
Right. Yep.
All right.
Okay. So the next one is the OneDrive sync client.
Yeah. I guess I'll take this. So you probably don't realize this, but as you're installing Office Pro Plus, you have up until recently been still installing Groove.exe. Yes, you have, and that means that the OneDrive Sync client is part of Windows 10 now, isn't it? It's kind of tweaked and capable of connecting to OneDrive Consumer and OneDrive for Business. But Groove.exe was left in the background for Office Pro Plus and Perpetual Office 2016 because there were SharePoint on-prem servers that still needed it. SharePoint on-prem that may have IRM enables still depended on that Groove.exe because the new gen or next gen sync client was not capable of synchronizing content and making it usable. But that is changing. That has been one of the announcements that came out of Ignite. And therefore, this plan or this announcement is about trying to make you aware that there's going to be a change as it rolls out that Groove.exe will actually be removed. And to be aware of this, really be aware of this, that if you still need that to be in place, then you can get in there and install a registry key that basically tells this process to not uninstall Groove.exe. Any thoughts or takes on that there, Dan?
No, I think you've done a good job. I think it's good. I personally have had issues with the Groove syncing over the years, and so this new sync client. I don't know, when do we stop calling it new, but new sync client is hopefully going to solve. And I've had great experience with it, or great experiences with it, and I think it does a good job. So I'm okay with this. I think you do need to be this, like you mentioned. It's just important if you've got some legacy stuff, got some older SharePoint stuff. The timing is just making sure that your users understand what's going on, and when that there might be some blips, as we've seen, there might be some blips with if they don't get the new client, and then this gets removed for some reason. Just be aware of that. That might be happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Keep a watch on who is still using it, and if you need to put that key in place, then do so. Yep. All right. Moving on to that next announcement. Well, we've got a Flow announcement.
Yes, we do. So this is another announcement from Ignite. The conference was basically being able to launch a flow on demand from a SharePoint item, and this launch panel is the ability to be able to fill in information. I'm trying to find out if we have. There it is. It's for users to be able to fill in information when they fire off the workflow using Microsoft Flow. So this is being able to select from a drop down is the example here. Maybe you're saying I want a device. And it's like what kind of device, and so it does routing. I could think for the other scenario that was mentioned at Ignite was using this for kind of an ad hoc approval or review of an item. So let's say you want your manager, or actually better yet, a colleague that's not your manager. So Office 365 would have no way to know who this person is in relation to you. It's just a colleague, right? 365 knows who your manager is. So, you can always create a flow that says whoever kicks this off, send it to their manager. But this is more like, I want Sally in in my department. I want her to review this. She has expertise in this area. When you fire off the flow, if the flow has inputs like an email address or a person field, I can fill in Sally's name or whoever's name I want to send it to, and send it to them so they can review it and give me some feedback. And the reason why you would do it here is maybe tracking some of that show that, yeah, I got some feedback there, and I sent it to someone else to review. So this is great. We were able to do this with SharePoint workflow before. When you kick off a custom SharePoint workflow, so this is great functionality from Microsoft Flow for us.
Yeah, so it is a more about bringing back that experience that we had to sacrifice for a little while, and it's now being expanded upon within Flow. I think we tried to talk about this in the first take when we tried to go through this. There's a need for adding additional information at the time. So an email address was one example. I think we see there in the screenshot there that you can add various drop-down requirements or drop-down responses to that flow. So yeah, it just definitely opens up a lot more possibilities.
Yep, it sure does, and it gives you that kind of ad hoc, capability rather than I have to create my flow with all of the parameters in mind and knowing, being able to programmatically determine what needs to be filled in, right? Instead of maybe there's times when I need some user interaction so they can fill this information in, so Nintex has had this, and we talked about that, but so this is cool. This is another tool that we can use as Microsoft Flow designers to be able to bring this functionality and help people automate and not have to do so much and not have to email so much. So.
Yeah, exactly, and it's something that I need to look into and get familiar with some of these capabilities. That it shouldn't have to be a power user thing. It should actually be a capability that any user could use. But at this stage, Flow still needs to have a certain kind of thinking to drive to be able to create something that could potentially reduce the work that you're doing and automate some things.
That's right. Yep. So I'm going to stop sharing.
That's our last announcement. Yeah, go ahead.
Sharing,
yeah.
So you can maybe share and talk about something. Maybe the tech community.
That's right. That was right. Yeah. So I wanted to finish off. You did see there's a couple of announcements that have come in since week. So we will leave those till next week. Right. I'll just minimize the floating face of Dan.
There we go.
Yeah, that's right. So we're off now to the tech community, and I just wanted to finish off with this. As you're trying to catch up and process all the different sessions that you were interested in, the recordings and the like, just want to leave you with a tip here about consuming some of this content. So in the tech community, of course, you can sign in with your Office 365 account and various other authentication systems. But all the Ignite content is going to be up here in events. And what you'll find on this landing page is there's a table that you can filter and go through and find certain audiences or certain levels of information. What I suggest is if you have created your own schedule and you've exported the BRK codes that you wanted to attend, like you and I think we discussed this, that sometimes you book up 4 sessions for the same time slot, and you know full well that you're only going to go to one of them or maybe even none of them, but you've actually used that as a way to bookmark the content that you're interested in. One thing that I've been looking.
One thing on that. I'm sorry to interrupt, but one thing on that is that remember these are all still plugged in to My Ignite. So if you're on My Ignite website, you're logged in, you see your schedule. On each one of those at the bottom, it has the content. So you can click on the title for Microsoft Tech Communities, and it takes you to the right page. So you can either do it that way, or you can do it the way you just described. If you have the code, you have the topic, or maybe you're just searching around for stuff that you didn't even see. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly that My Ignite's going to be around for a little while longer. I haven't heard from Jeff Medford or Anna Chu about when the lifetime of that is, but certainly the content will live on in here until I believe until the next Ignite at least. 90 days?
I think so. I think that's right.
Yep. Cool. So yeah, if you know your BRK code, then you can use that search box down here to search in the community. And what I've been doing is as a way of, I guess, trying to create something of a playlist. So if I go into a session, then I can make use of the bookmark feature within the tech community. You see it jumps here to the session description, the code, etc. If we scroll up a little, then we've got some of the content that has been, the videos have been published in, some of them have been published in Azure Media Services. I've had it on good authority that they're all going to be available on YouTube as well. Yep. But make use of this options area at the top right-hand corner, that if you bookmark that content, so you go through and bookmark all the sessions that you're keen to watch, to be involved in terms of discussions. So if you wanted to keep up to date with comments and discussions around this session, then you can click subscribe. And in both cases, that means that you can access this content now up in your My Subscriptions underneath your profile.
That's right.
So that means I can go back, go to my bookmarks, and I've got all the sessions that I can sort of start to work my way through and be part of that. My other workaround I shared was if you're keen to get a trial 3-month subscription of the YouTube Red, then you can do that, and of course take the videos offline and watch those. But do note, when you signed up for that trial subscription, if you don't have any intention of continuing with it, that's just the Scottish person in me. We can save some money. Anyway, terrible accent.
It was
stopping
terrible.
That sharing there.
So we did have a question on Twitter from Suzanne Hunt asking, is the creation of groups on Outlook Mobile still going to be controlled by AAD, Azure Active Directory? I believe the answer is yes to that. We're not. You're not gaining permissions just because we're able to do it mobile, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyone can create a group unless you've put in some policies in place that prevent it from happening. I think it's a fair question though, Suzanne, because we've seen in the past that people could find a way around this by creating a group from a planner or from a team site. So what we are seeing is the controls and the policies are now being controlled from Azure AD, and that should control wherever you create groups. Those policies will be in place. The naming conventions, whether you've got banned words in there or who in fact can create groups. So if you put in a policy to say only this select group of people, these power users that have been given the license, or rather the drive-in instructions to create groups, then that should also be enforced, even at the mobile level. Good question. Good catch there, Dan. Good catch.
Yep. So I think that's it, sir. We've covered the Message Center, and I don't think I haven't seen anything that that wasn't in the Message Center that should have been, that I've heard of. Have you heard of any?
Well, look, I've had my head down trying to prepare and other things and catch up on work. So, I just encourage people that if you are wanting to keep up with changes, that be part of that tech community, because while we do have mechanisms like the Message Center, which is specific to your tenant, you are going to be kept up to date by being part of a community and hearing what others have to say. So, do go into the tech community, join a couple of groups, join the Change Alerts group, and definitely keep up to date with change.
Yep, that's right.
So that was us regarding 365 of Daniel Glenn and Daryl as a service. And look at that, we're even 1 minute under 30 minutes.
Sounds great.
Not bad.
I like it.
All right, see you again next week. That was a pretty good second take, Dan. We got there.
That's right. Good job, Daryl. Thanks. See you, everybody.
Okay.